They say if you want smooth footage, get a gimbal. Yeah, if you're a pro and getting paid, absolutely. But if you're just doing your own YouTube or project videos, then the in-body stabilization should be enough. Now, a little bit of history for context of what I'm doing and why these tests are important. I've been reviewing gaming mice professionally for the last 11 years, and since getting the Canon R5, I've been able to do handheld panning shots around the products. Seriously, the R5 is so good for just quickly getting some B-roll to fill in the gaps, and add some interesting shots. Then I started getting interested in Sony again. Bigger range of lenses, smaller, lighter, easier to manage, breathing compensation, and a heap of other quality of life features. Once their color science caught up with Canon, there wasn't much reason to stick with Canon. Unfortunately, the stabilization in Sony has been pretty bad. It's getting better, and with dynamic active, you can get some really smooth footage. But whenever the camera channels test this, they're usually testing it like they're vlogging. So even Sony seems to think stabilization is just about low light photography or walking in straight lines. Canon does that stupid warp when walking, but I'd argue, why are you vlogging with the R5? And unless you've got a really small sports camera, phone or gimbal, you probably won't get good walking footage anyway. However, I just got the A7R VI, so it's time to test it in 4K 120 FPS to see if it can replace the Canon R5. The R5 was released back in 2020, and it actually has that extra stabilization mode even in 4K 120. And there's stabilization in the lens too. These tests are all with the RF 15-35 f2.8. In the A7R VI, you can't use the dynamic active in 4K 120. It's grayed out, even in other video modes. Unless I'm missing something, I'm still new to this camera. So these tests will be the best camera settings I know for each one. I'm not interested in a fair test where I have to nerf one of the cameras. I want to see what I can do with each one and which is best. And I switched the R5 over to C-Log today, just so they're both shooting in log. I messed that up a bit, don't judge the color and exposure, we're just looking at stabilization in this video. I tried to keep similar focal ranges as well, but it's hard when Canon is cropping in further with the extra digital stabilization. And I was doing this really quick. Okay, that's enough disclaimers and info, let's look at these tests. First, this panning shot around the mouse, and I'll speed this up sometimes just to make the jitters more obvious. The Canon R5 handles it really well. It's so floaty it almost looks like it's on a crane. Meanwhile, Sony is jumping around a little. The footage looks good, as in the picture quality, but the stabilization is still fighting me when I go sideways, or on diagonals. Granted, it's not getting the benefit of the extra digital stabilization, sure, but the R5 is 6 years old. The only excuse the A7R VI has is that it's a much higher megapixel, so way more data. I kinda get that, but still wish they'd find a way, or at least add panning to their processing. Like, just don't fight the movement I'm doing. And also, their other cameras can't do this either, so I know it's not just a megapixel thing. It's just Sony hasn't figured it out yet. However, I will say that this is usable. It's not as smooth as Canon, but it would pass and go into the video. When slowed to normal speed, it's not so obvious it's fighting me. I can use sections of it. The next shot is top down, push in and out. This is really hard to do physically, because we don't move in straight lines. So a few wobbles even on the Canon. But I think the A7R VI actually did this a little better. Maybe user error. The point is, Sony is fine going straight. It's the curves and pans that confuse it. Moving the camera straight but on a slight angle will also cause an issue on Sony, because it's like panning. It's not too bad though. Again, it's getting usable. It's just these mini jolts as the stabilization tries to sit still and go straight. Sony cameras don't understand the movement like the Canon cameras do. And apparently, Canon aren't even class leading. It's just what I have to test against. That's what I do in the studio. Now let's test outside with a walking test. Surprisingly, the stupid warping thing is way worse on the A7R VI. Hopefully they can fix that with the firmware update. I think they're going to need to fix a few things. So yeah, the Canon still wins here too. Next, to pan around a rock to see the beach, and it's not close. The Canon is just smoother. Reminder that Canon not only has an extra layer of digital stabilization in 4K 120, but the lens is also stabilized. All those combined do great with these kinds of shots. If I take more care with the Sony, I can probably make this shot work, but it would be harder to do. And there's always gyro data if you want to do the extra steps in post, but I love the R5 for just slotting the footage in. I don't want to spend forever editing. For this next shot, I want to do some pans, bigger and bigger, and faster each time, just to see how the cameras handle it. Sony struggles straight away, always has to fight me. Yeah, see, I say that people are complaining about something that others don't even do with the cameras, or not much, like vlogging, meaning walking with bad steps, but they're just missing how good the stabilization is in the panning, and for the more artistic and cinematic type shots. Like, this is actually really good, it's a massive time saver, and I can make the videos look cooler. Meanwhile, Sony just has terrible stabilization, so I've actually got a real use case scenario for this. I mean, you can use it in some ways, but nothing really interesting. How about just up and down? Canon looking good? Sony, not bad until it kind of pans, then it falls apart again. So straight lines that we've seen other reviewers test, yeah, Sony has worked on those. But because no one panned, Sony didn't include that. Sony, please work on panning stabilization with all your AI processing amazingness. Next, some quick movements. This is a tough test. Canon does okay. Sony panics. Although I have noticed that once it gets going a bit, it can do the pans, until it second guesses itself and starts fighting the camera user. Next test, looking down and then up. Again, Canon seems mostly good. Sony looked like it wanted to fight me, but it's holding together. I guess this is straight enough for it. Which also means that it's the horizontal axis that really stresses it out, not vertical. And I think that's the verdict. So look, I've invested more money into Sony. I do appreciate the smaller sizes and quality of life features, but unfortunately the 6-year-old Canon R5 is still doing better than Sony's latest. Sony's in-lens stabilization was never that good on these smaller lenses, so I get why they didn't put it on. But the fact they've now come out with a camera that does 4K 120, but doesn't allow the extra dynamic active stabilization, and they still haven't figured out panning, or even tried to figure it out, means the R5 is still better. And not the Mark II, the original R5. Whether it's a better overall camera? Yeah, probably not, but that's another video. In this one, I just wanted to bring attention to the issues with Sony stabilization, because all the reviews I've seen just kinda skip over it, or don't test any artistic styles. Overall, I'm really enjoying the A7R VI. I don't want to come across as a hater. It's a beautiful camera. But Sony, please fix your stabilization. This camera is so good. It's sad that it gets let down in this way, and can't even beat a Canon camera from 6 years ago. I want to be able to shoot landscapes in high resolution, while also making cool videos with some artistic filming. This camera has so many extra features that I want that the R5 doesn't have. But as I've said, the R5 still wins in stabilization. So I hope this helps people make their decision, but I also hope it gets back to Sony, or the camera channels start actually testing panning too. Because maybe, just maybe, Sony can figure it out. Anyway, let me know if there's something more you want tested. I gotta do some low light testing too, so that should be next. Usual links below if you want to help support what I do. Sub, like, and share. Catch ya.